Hi, my name is Jasmine Wellman, and I chose to do my project on Salvador Dali. Dali was born in Figueres, Spain in 1904. His mother was a devout Catholic, and his father was an atheist. And when Dali was 6, his dad sent him to the Hispano-French School of Immaculate Conception, and he learned to speak French there. And then later, Dali's first solo exhibition was in Barcelona in 1925, and his works were shown all throughout the world there. Dali's primary movement that his works were focused on were the Surrealism movement, and the movement was founded in 1924 by André Breton, and this was Dali's primary movement. The movement focused on the psychology of Sigmund Freud, which was a theory that Freud adopted that said that people who had mental disorders or anything like that, their problems could be solved or they could be cured but through turning their unconscious thoughts into conscious ones. And Freud also practiced therapy where he would have the patient lie down and describe to him their childhood memories or dreams that they've had so he could figure out the problem. And this group was originally a group of artists who gathered to protest the future of European culture. Because during this time, feelings of logic and reason were emerging. And these people felt that because people were starting to think logically, there was no more room for dreams and fantasy, and they thought that that wasn't right. And so during this time, Dali created The Persistence of Memory in 1931, which was one of his most famous paintings that he's known for. And the work is supposed to evoke feelings of dreams, like eerie feelings. And you can tell, like, this movement was like something that he did dream about. As you can see, the melting clocks in the top. And he also places a blank figure in the center of the work, which sort of resembles a human. Some think that it's supposed to resemble what's left of a human generation that was there. And yeah. He also created the aphrodisiac telephone. He sculpted it in 1938, and it became a really popular symbol of this time. And he carved the body of a lobster as the receiver of a telephone, as you can see in the picture below. In the early 40s, Dali and his wife moved to America from their home in Paris to escape World War II. And later, Dali was hired by Walt Disney to create storyboards and the art for a short film called Destino. And production for this film began in 1945, but the actual film wasn't released until 2003, which is 58 years apart. And this film also goes back to the roots of surrealism and depicts like eerie feelings of dreams and fantasies, as there's one scene in it where the main character, a woman, passes by a large group of eyes that have hands reaching out of the pupils. And there's also a scene where the woman's head turns into a ball and she can roll it across her shoulders. And the picture above is also a scene from Destino. In the 50s, Salvador's father dies in 1950. And this is also when he goes into what people call his classical period. And during this time, his works showed themes of religion, history, and science, which is kind of contradictory to surrealism, as they were opposing like logic and science. But he characterized these works showing these themes as nuclear mysticism, and he became obsessed with ideas of divinity and optical illusions. And he also created a work called The Royal Heart, which actually moves like a beating heart. And he made it of gold, 46 rubies, 42 diamonds, and 2 emeralds. And I have a picture in the top. Later in his life, Dali is awarded with the Grand Cross of the Order of Isabella the Catholic, which is one of Spain's highest awards. He also started his museum in 1961, which would later be called the Teatro Museo Dali, or the Dali Theater Museum. The building was in his hometown, Figueres, in the same building that his first exhibition was held in. And later in his life, in 1982, his wife Gala dies, and he started painting a lot less. His last works were inspired by ideas of immortality and the fourth dimension, as well as his earlier ideas of fantasy and dreams. And his very last work, this called The Swallow's Tale, was created in 1982, the same year his wife died. And it was based on Renee Tom's theory of catastrophe, which describes the evolution of forms in nature. Moving on to Dali's death. 5 years before his death, Dali survived serious injuries from a fire in his castle Pueblo, which is also the castle that he bought for his wife and remodeled it for her before she died. And the incident left him in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. After the incident, he still continued painting and he still continued his daily life, but he just painted a lot less. And he finally died of heart failure on January 23rd, 1989. And he was 84 years old. Now I have some interesting facts. Dolly once said a quote, which was, "I don't do drugs, I am drugs." Another interesting thing about Dolly was his mustache. And lastly, he also had a deep fascination with Hitler, so much that he even painted him a couple of times. And when he was asked about Hitler in an interview, he said that he dreamed of Hitler as he dreamt of women. And there we go. That's my presentation on Salvador Dali.